The following is a presentation of the Redskins Broadcast Network.
It's time for the Mike Shanahan Coaches Show. Larry Michael, Charles Mann, and the coach, Mike Shanahan. Coach, tomorrow, 1 o'clock, you're going to take on a winless team. The Rams have lost to Philadelphia, the Giants, and Baltimore last week. Now, what has gone wrong for them other than the scoreboard?
Well, I just know they beat us last year at their place. So
right.
You start thinking about them being 0-3 in the National Football League, you're going to have a rough day yourself. As I told our team after the Dallas game, I said this team got embarrassed. You don't want to play a team that gets embarrassed the next week. So our football team understands that even though they've lost to 3 straight teams, that if you're not ready and you're not ready to give it your best shot, you'll be embarrassed yourself.
So how was practice this week coming off of a tough loss like that? How quickly can the players put that behind them?
I think our players responded well. It's not easy to come off a loss like that. You put in so much time within your division. You got a chance to put the game away. You don't put the game away. So it's tough on everybody. But after 24 hours, you gotta wipe it out. You got to get ready for the next week because there is no knockout punches in this league. Each week is a new game, new opportunity to win, and I think our guys are ready, and we're going to have to be ready going in their backyard.
Let's check out the Rams from last week, and the Baltimore Ravens defense really got physical with St. Louis last week. Bradford got sacked several times, got bounced around a lot. Baltimore's defense is tough, and St. Louis took the brunt of it last week.
Yeah, they did. A little bit different type of offense. Anytime you change coordinators and a lockout year, it's not easy. Running a new system, and they did take some shots in comparison to a year ago. But let's not take away from Bradford. Bradford is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in this league for a lot of years. Very impressed with his accuracy, his ability to take a shot, his concentration downfield. And if you give this guy time, he's going to rip you apart.
But you talk about Bradford and you talk about his development, and only in his second year, taking a beating like this, that's tough on a young quarterback.
Oh, it is. There's especially when you're behind early and you got to play catch up when they know you got to throw the football and you're going against an excellent defensive front that mixes up a lot of different zone and man coverages, and you're not quite comfortable with the system. It's not easy. I don't know if you saw the Giants game, but they took the first 2 drives. They went right down the field against an excellent defensive team and stubbed their toes inside the 5-yard line. It could easily have been 14-zip. And all of a sudden that worm started turning a little bit for the Giants, and they still held them to 3 yards a carry on the ground. And it kind of gives you, I think we all know what type of running game the Giants have. So, they've got the capabilities, and we saw it last year.
And we know the Giants, they had some very severe injuries in that game. And I'm just kidding. We talked about that last week. Well, in fact, the Rams defense gave up some big plays to the Ravens last week. Torrey Smith, the Terp, got deep. We'll check out some of those highlights. And when you look at how Baltimore approached the game offensively, they were very aggressive early on.
Yeah, they got some big plays early against bump coverage, and it's just a half a step or a step here and there. And Torrey made some big plays and kind of his breakout game. And sometimes you don't know how good a guy is until he gets an opportunity, and Torrey took advantage of his opportunity.
The Redskins defense did a pretty good job last week, and you hold a team to no touchdowns, and you still don't win. How do you explain that?
Easy. We didn't score 18 points, more than 18 points, and that's how you don't win. But, you got to do it on both sides of the ball. I thought our defense did a great job of coming up with a turnover inside the 10-yard line. We scored our touchdown, too, and didn't do anything in the fourth quarter. And if you don't move the ball in the fourth quarter, and we gave them a few opportunities. But as you saw, we had our chances to put that game away in all 3 phases, and it just takes one play here or there, and you got to make those plays and to win a game, especially within the division, especially on the road.
Has that happened to you before? Hold the team to no touchdowns and not win?
I'm not sure if I've ever gone against a team that's got 6 field goals in a game. I'm not sure that's ever happened.
In fact, it was a record. It was a record. The field goals was a record, the most field goals in a game. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's why I haven't experienced it yet. I don't want to experience it again. Did a good job, but, we had our chances. Actually had one that we didn't convert, and, I thought Cano did a good job. for the most part. Finally got a 50-yarder in there,
Yeah.
right down the middle. So hopefully he'll keep on growing, with that game experience.
All right, when we come back, we'll check out the Redskins Chronicles, the Rams game tomorrow, and look back one final time at the Dallas game on the Mike Shanahan Coaches Show on NBC4. Redskins linebackers getting ready for action. In fact, congratulations to Ryan Kerrigan, who was the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Month for the month of September. And kudos to Ryan Kerrigan, Coach.
Yeah, what a great job. He's come in here with the right mindset. He's a conscientious, plays with a lot of passion. Never has played the position before and has made the transition quite well. And he'll keep on getting better and better.
You know, sometimes you look at some of these kids, you say, these kids are too good to be true, and this is one of these kids. I mean, he's a class act off the field as well.
No, he is, and he's going to be a force to reckon with. He's got that type of ability, and he's, as I said, he's a guy that's going to give it everything he's got every day, and you're going to see him get better and better as he gets to understand the position more and more.
I wonder, who does he look to is on the team? London Fletcher. I remember I had Tony McGee and Dexter Manley. I had people that I looked to. I wonder, who is he reaching out to?
Oh, I think it's hard not to look at London Fletcher with the way he prepares and the way he goes about his business and just what he's done, over the last decade. It's hard to pass him up, and I'm sure he's looking at a lot of our veteran players because we've got a bunch of leaders back there. But anytime you look at that linebacker position, it starts with London, and he's getting some great tutoring right now.
It's two intense guys, London Fletcher and Ryan Kerrigan, and last Monday night in Dallas it was intense. And you get them again on November 20th. We know the schedule, but your offense, kind of a mixed bag last week. I'm sure you would have liked a little more yards per carry and a couple more touchdowns.
Yeah, you just got to be more consistent. We never got that big play in the running game. We've got to be more consistent there. You got to be physical. They're a physical football team, and you got when those running plays come up, instead of getting 4 or 5 yard gains, there's got to be 2 or 3 in there that you're going 40 or 50 or at least 30. Right. And we need to get those plays and really change field position. You can't get in a throwing game against those guys because they do such a great job on the outside with their pass rushers and Ware and Spencer. So we still had an opportunity to win it. We didn't take advantage of it. So next time we do play them, we're going to have to play a lot more air-free.
Defensively, you got Tony Romo. He's injured, punctured lung, cracked rib, and you tried to put pressure on him, but he had one of his best games of the season.
Well, if that's one of his best games, you're going to lose a lot of games because he had 6 fumbles, and with the snaps and those type of things. And I think if you take a look at 1 interception and no touchdowns, you wouldn't say it's one of Tony's better games, but he did what he had to do to win the football game. They made that big play on 3rd down and 21, a broken play, and Tony found a way to win the game. And so I take my hat off to him for finding a way to make that play and also playing with the pain that he played with.
Coach, short work week for you, and a couple of your players came pretty strong with their comments after the Dallas game. Do you like your team's attitude? You got some guys. In fact, Arakpo especially, what he had said on the radio, it was in the heat of the day after the loss, but he said, I don't know I don't care who we're going to play. I just want to get out there and play. Do you like that type of attitude from your team?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to get that bad taste in their mouth, get it out of you, just get away from it, because there's only one way that you're going to feel good, and that's with a win. And when you do have a bad taste in your mouth like we did after that game, you want to play as soon as you can. And so following a Monday night game and our preparation on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we know we've got to take advantage of this opportunity because we're going to have a bye after this. We'd sure rather be sitting 3-1 and 2-2, and to do that, everybody's got to be ready to play.
When we come back on the Mike Shanahan Coaches Show, the Redskins Chronicles, and the question of the week. Fan questions came in by the dozen this week, Coach. Get to that later on the Mike Shanahan Coaches Show on NBC4.
I think I heard someone say this is the 4th year in a row we've played the Rams when they haven't won a game. So it's a similar experience for the guys that have been here. But when you look at them, they play very hard. I think they're a very solid, well-coached football team. And so it's a challenge for us. And everyone likes to say that we're just saying that because that's what we're supposed to say. But that's the facts. I mean, they're a good team. They're an NFL team. They're off to a little bit of a slow start. But if we don't show up and play, they'll definitely beat us.
Chris Cooley's thoughts on the Rams. Coach, when you see a team that is winless, do you think they're weak or do you think they're dangerous?
Well, if you're in the National Football League, you know they're dangerous. To be winless in the National Football League is probably as embarrassing as it gets, because these players are at the top of their profession, and they get upset, especially when they get embarrassed like they did last week. And so our football team knows to go in their stadium with them being 0-3, that we're going to get their best shot.
Now I'm going to set Charles up here by asking you a question about Santana Moss. 16 catches this year. Man, he's so solid, Coach. What do you like most about Santana?
He's a no-nonsense guy. Winning's very important to him. He wouldn't care if he caught a ball if we won. He's got that type of mindset. He's a complete football player. And, you like guys that'll put it on the line. He's a guy that you can count on each week putting it on the line.
All right. This week's focus with Redskin Chronicles is about the wide receiver position. Sponsored by Geico.
Since Sling and Sammy Baugh revolutionized the NFL passing game in 1937, the receiver position has been a crucial component of the Redskins' success. With 4 receivers currently enshrined in Canton, the most of any NFL team, Redskins receivers have made a lasting mark on NFL history. In football's early days, receivers were called ends, and one of the greatest was Wayne Millman. He entered the Hall of Fame in 1968. Hugh Bones Taylor made the team as a walk-on free agent in 1947. And by the time he retired in 1954, he'd set franchise records in receptions, yards, touchdowns, and points scored. One of those records, Taylor's 961 receiving yards in 1952, would be eclipsed by a true Redskins pioneer, Bobby Mitchell. As the first African-American to wear the burgundy and gold as a starter, Mitchell was a trailblazer on and off the field. A Redskin hero in the community, Mitchell officially became an NFL icon in 1983 when he was voted into the Hall of Fame. Charlie Taylor joined the Redskins in 1964. Where Mitchell preferred to run around defenders, Taylor, at 6'3", 210 pounds, preferred running through them. After breaking every Redskins receiving record, Taylor retired in 1977 as the NFL's all-time leading pass catcher with 649 receptions. The 8-time Pro Bowler joined his mentor, Bobby Mitchell, in the Hall of Fame. As a scout for the team, Taylor helped land perhaps the most beloved receiver in Redskins history, James Arthur Monk. Monk was a first-round selection in 1980 and immediately justified that decision by breaking Taylor's rookie receiving record. 4 years later, Monk would become the first NFL receiver in history to catch 106 balls in a single season. Finally, in 1992, Monk etched his name ever deeper into the pantheon of NFL greats, catching the pass that gave him the most receptions of anyone who'd ever played the game.
I just tried to take advantage of every opportunity every time I got on the field as much as possible, and that just ended up to be, 16-year ride.
While Monk stood alone statistically when he retired, he'd enjoyed the support of 2 other world-class receivers throughout much of his Redskins career. They were known as the Posse, and in 1989, each member exceeded 1,000 yards in receptions, the first receiving trio in NFL history that could stake such a claim. Among them was Ricky Sanders, a speedster from the defunct USFL. Sanders set Super Bowl records for receiving yards, most touchdowns in a quarter, and the longest touchdown reception in Super Bowl history. If Monk was known for his humble confidence and Sanders for his cool burst of speed, Gary Clark will be remembered for his fearless intensity. The 4-time Pro Bowler ranks 3rd on the list of all-time Redskins receivers, but his 72 yards per game average is tops in team history. Closing in on Clark at number 5 on the all-time Redskins receiver list is Santana Moss. Acquired from the Jets via trade in 2005, Moss wasted no time showing Redskins fans why he was brought to town. On a Monday night in Dallas, Moss grabbed 2 long prayers in the game's final 3 minutes, lifting the Redskins from a hopeless 13-0 deficit to a miraculous 14-13 victory. Moss has remained the one constant on the Redskins receiving corps ever since. catching 93 passes in 2010, the most in his career. All right, Redskins wide receivers over the years, and Coach, you look at the Rams, and you don't have a lot of big-name receivers, but you have a history of finding some gems that guys really have not considered big-name receivers. And why don't you tell us that story real quick?
Well, you're talking about McCaffrey?
Yes, sir.
Rod Smith?
Yes, sir.
When I first came into Denver my first year, we had 2 first-round draft choices, and Pritchard and Anthony Miller, and they were both in the top 15 picks in the first round. At the end of the season, we released those 2 players. We took Rod Smith, who was a free agent, and then McCaffrey, who was a 4th rounder from the Giants, but was cut, and San Francisco picked him up. And there was so much abuse at the end of the season. How could you let 2 first-round draft choices go? But you knew that these 2 guys, I mean, football was important to them, just the way they handled themselves, the whole year. And I just said, hey, we got to go in this direction. And I think both guys got a chance to be in the Hall of Fame someday with the mindset that they had, the way they played, and they were just consistent every day and wound up leading Denver to a couple Super Bowls.
You never know. You never really know.
I like it.
All right, when we come back, fan questions, and we give away our first pair of Redskins tickets for the question of the week on the Mike Shanahan Coaches Show. All right, we're back. The Mike Shanahan Coaches Show. Larry Michael, Charles Mann, and of course the coach Mike Shanahan. Now it's time for fan questions, Coach. And last week we talked about the question of the week, receiving 2 tickets to the next Redskins home game. We can give away 2 tickets here tonight and every week on the Mike Shanahan Coaches Show. And if you have a question for us, send your questions to wrcsports@nbcuni.com. Fan questions sponsored by KFC. So here's one that did not win, but it's an excellent question from Potsy. He says, does the coach remember when the Denver Broncos against the Redskins and Charles Mann sacked John Elway twice? I believe one tackle, Charles used his leg.
It should have been a penalty. I remember like yesterday.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I have a picture of that. I should have pulled my groin on that play.
They still counted as a sack, though. I do remember that.
You send that one to the league?
Back then, they didn't have those pictures sent to the league. No.
All right, I have Roland Steele. When you finally get some family time, do you and Kyle talk about football, or do your wives put a stop to that, or do they join in?
During the season, you really don't have a lot of time to spend together as a family. You'd like to spend a little bit more, but with the schedule that you have during the week, you really don't have a chance. And when you do, Kyle is trying to spend some time with his kids, and I'm trying to spend a little time with Peggy, but every once in a while we'll get a chance to go out to dinner, those type of things. But yeah, football always comes up. You're always talking about football and trying to get that edge, especially during the season, during the bye week, when you do have a little extra time.
All right, here is our question of the week, and this one wins 2 tickets to the Redskins' next home game against Philadelphia Eagles on October 16th. So, folks, really appreciate all the emails, and keep them coming. Charles and I sit down and figure which one is the best one each week, and here we go. The winner this week is Randy McDaniel from Vienna, Virginia. And kind of appropriate because of last week's game. His coach, there's been much talk about the Redskins' defense and Jim Haslett. What is yours and Coach Haslett's defensive philosophy?
That's good. What you want to be able to do with a defense, you have to be able to stop the run to start off with. If you want to be good, offensively or defense, but it's talking about defense, you've got to be good in those front 7. And they got to be able to stop the run. Sometimes it'll be an 8-man front, or times it'll be a 7-man front. But that's where you start with your philosophy. And next is you got to put pressure on the quarterback. Do you do that with 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people? You've got to have the ability to keep an offense off balance. The great thing about the 3-4 defense from an offensive perspective, I'm not sure, except for those 3 linemen, which guys are coming. Right. And then when you got a guy like Rack on one side, you got a guy like Kerrigan, you got a guy like London and Rocky, you got a guy like Landry in the inside, you got a guy like OJ. All those combinations, you're not sure which guys are coming on any play. There's zone blitzes, there's all-out blitzes, there's so many things our defense can do to keep an offense off balance. Those type of things bother me. So that's the type of philosophy I'd like, because as an offensive coordinator, you've got to attack every type of defense in the National Football League. You got 4-man fronts, 3-man fronts, and that presents more of a challenge to me than all defenses.
Aggressive or tempered?
I think there's a time for both. It all depends what type of offense you're going against. You have to know when to attack, when to lay off, what type of protection schemes, all based on what type of schemes they have. But I think in general, you always want to keep the pressure on. You can't let an offense think they can let everybody out on every play. A quarterback can sit back there, because if you do, the great ones will tear you apart.
Well, good question, and there is a concise answer from the coach. Good luck tomorrow, Coach.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you.
All right, for Mike Shanahan and Charles Mann, I'm Larry Michael. Thank you for watching the Mike Shanahan Coaches Show. We'll see you next week right here on NBC4.
Type of schemes they have. But I think in general, you always want to keep the pressure on. You can't let an offense think they can let everybody out on every play. A quarterback can sit back there, because if you do, the great ones will tear you apart.
Well, good question, and there is a concise answer from the coach. Good luck tomorrow, Coach.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you.
All right, for Mike Shanahan and Charles Mann, I'm Larry Michael. Thank you for watching the Mike Shanahan Coaches Show. We'll see you next week right here on NBC4.